Welcome to the Four Skills YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been National Apprenticeship Week and we've been doing lots of YouTube lives this week. So this is our final, which is very exciting. We've been speaking to lots of different employees across the channel, and for this session we'll be focusing on diversity, equity and inclusion at Channel 4. So these are elements that are obviously incredibly important to us at Channel 4. They feature in all the work we do, they feature heavily, and they're an integral part of our remit, which includes championing unheard voices and inspiring change. So for this session, we'll be speaking to some members of the Channel 4 inclusion team. So I will allow them to introduce themselves and then we can ask them some questions and get this started. So could we start with Chloe, if that's all right, because you're the first speaker on my little list.
Of course. Hello, I'm Chloe O'Toole and I am an Equity and Inclusion Executive at Channel 4.
Thanks, Chloe. Giles next, if that's all right.
Hello, I'm Giles Barker. I'm the Workplace Disability Lead in Channel 4.
Fab. And then Maria, lastly.
Hello, nice to be here. My name is Maria St. Louis and I'm Equity and Inclusion Lead at Channel 4.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. And it's so nice to be joined by all of you. You do such important jobs. And I think, especially for people that are outside looking into Channel 4, they want to understand the things that are going on within the channel because diversity inclusion is such an important topic. So I thought to begin with, would we be able to give a kind of basic explanation in terms of what diversity, equity and inclusion mean? So I don't know if one of you wants to take each of them individually, if that might be helpful. I don't know if any of you have a preference, but I don't know if I could start with you, Maria, to give some, thank you.
So I'll go first. I'll start with the D then. That's the diversity for diversity. And I think in basic terms, really, what diversity is about difference. So it's all the things that make us unique. And essentially, in a workplace perspective and looking inside here at Channel 4, it's about humans and humanities. So what makes us different on a personal level is how we identify, whether that be our race, our gender, our sexuality, our disability, but likewise where we come from, like geographically, it's things that we identify with that make us who we are. And I think the important thing about diversity is that we all have different elements of us that make us fully diverse. So it's quite intersectional, which means we don't just tick one box. So for me, diversity is about difference, but it's also about data, really human data. So things that make us unique and different.
Oh, thank you. Amazing explanation. Sorry, go on, Chloe.
So I'll do equity. So equity is the principle of creating a level playing field in the workplace so that everyone gets the same chances to succeed and develop. So this will lead to an equal outcome. And sometimes that means that we need to offer people alternatives in order to have the fair opportunity. So I'll give an example of that. If somebody is unable to physically make it to the workplace, say for an interview, what we would do is offer an online interview for that individual, whereas it might not be something that we offer to everybody else. So equity is ensuring that people get fair opportunities in order for an equal outcome.
Amazing, thank you. Last with you, Giles.
So I'm going to be covering inclusion, and I've actually got kind of two different answers. So inclusion can be on the personal level is how an individual feels. It's kind of how an individual feels that the organization recognizes their differences. The differences are recognized, respected, valued, and celebrated. But inclusion is also about how we think about others and actually removing the barriers and bias that others may be experiencing in the workplace, whether it be communicating, designing, training, developing, whatever activity you do. If you can actively remove those barriers when you're working, you can create that kind of inclusive environment for everybody else.
Thank you. And I suppose that leads me on to my next question, because when you, as someone that may not have worked in a workplace before, why is inclusion so important to what we do, and why is it so important to all of us? If anyone wanted to take that first.
So I suppose that it boosts morale. So an inclusive workplace is a happy workplace, and where everyone's feeling comfortable, everyone's getting the same opportunities, everybody's feeling confident and secure, and getting the same opportunities and chances as everybody else, and having that opportunity to speak up, share their ideas, and get involved.
Yeah, amazing. Did anyone want to add on that? Is that a perfect answer?
I mean, it is the perfect answer, Chloe. That is.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, go on, Maria.
Yeah, I was going to say it's all about like psychological safety, so ensuring that people feel comfortable, really. But yeah, it's just
And
about.
I think an inclusive workplace as well is a creative workplace. If you had a workplace full of the same people, the same background, the same upbringing, the same religion, the same culture, then you're not going to have, many different ideas. You're not going to have many creative ideas. Whereas if you've got an inclusive workplace, if you've got a diverse workplace, um, then you're going to have lots of different creative ideas, lots of different ways of thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's so important to people when joining a workplace. You want to know that you can feel included no matter kind of who you are and where you're from. So thank you. And just thinking about your team, so you're part of the 4 inclusion team. So what types of things do you guys actually do to kind of work across those different areas? So if I could start with you, Giles, what sorts of things do you do?
So my role focuses on workplace adjustments, so providing workplace adjustments for staff, working with their line managers as well, but also for staff who have a neurodiverse condition, impairment, or long-term health condition, we have coaching and mentoring programs. I'm also looking behind the scenes at some of the kind of process improvement. We have training sessions around everything from accessibility to inclusion, and we also share knowledge on panels such as these.
Yeah, very important. Thank you. And Maria, what types of things do you do in your kind of day to day that really, yeah, works on these different areas?
So I kind of mentioned it just before about psychological safety, and that's the idea that everyone
Yeah,
feels that that they're allowed to, or that they're welcome to speak up about things, or to bring their ideas to the fore. So really kind of ensuring that there's no conversation that is off limits, and that just having rich conversations is just part of the culture at Channel 4. And I've got to say that there's no such thing as like a topic being taboo or off top, like off the agenda, essentially. So ensuring that conversations are had amongst individuals in departments, but just brought to the fore so that the business can see if there are any things that we can, that we could do better, because we always strive to be the best that we can possibly be, and ensure that our culture is really inclusive. So you don't really know if something is not inclusive unless you're willing to have those conversations that can
yeah.
sometimes be uncomfortable. So yeah, that's a big part of the role, I would say.
Well, and Chloe, did you have anything to add in terms of what you do day to day?
Yeah, so I think it's quite a broad question, because our team tend to do different things each day, and
Yeah,
different things come up all the time, whether it's um, like social events, or whether it is a cultural event or a cultural celebration, things like that. So I think mainly what I do is support our ERG networks, which is our employee resource groups, and help them get where they want to be, or support them with their plans and ideas that they have. Something else that we do is, we might look over the language that's used. We might look at accessibility and talk about, we'll even create like a basic guideline for people to use whilst they're holding events, things like that. So yeah, it changes day to day, but it's an exciting and different job. Gets your mind thinking each day.
yeah, you guys sound like you definitely do different things every day, which is really
Mhm.
nice. Um, And just, I think it's really interesting to probably hear from all of you about how you started your journeys in the industry, or how you got into these types of roles, because like everyone comes from really different backgrounds, and everyone experiences different kind of entry paths. So Chloe, can I start with you, because obviously
Yeah.
people don't know that are watching, but you were an apprentice before. So would you be able to talk a bit
Yeah.
about your journey at Channel 4 and how you actually got into the team that you're in now from where you started?
Yeah, of course. So I applied for an apprenticeship way back in 2016, and I was successful in that. So I was a media apprentice in the Manchester office, and I loved it. It was really different. I got so many opportunities. For me, being a small town girl, it was like going on holiday every day. I went into the office because I was like, wow, Manchester's such a big city. So I found it really exciting in every way. And the great thing about being an apprentice, that you get paid and you learn as well. You come out with a qualification at the end. And you also get, an opportunity to explore all the different departments, make different connections, and join different communities. So after that, I ended up staying within the Manchester team, which is predominantly a sales team. So I went on to be agency sales assistant to executive. And then whilst I was in the sales team, I was also really involved with the ERG groups, particularly for Purple and for Pride. And whilst I was within those groups, I got the chance to, meet different departments, including the For Inclusion team. So when the opportunity for secondment came up, I was like, right, I've got to go for it now. And that's how I got here today.
Oh, amazing. Like, such a nice story. And I think it just shows that
Mm.
even like no matter where you start off at Channel 4, you can kind of, your paths can really change. Like, you can go into so many different areas. That's really nice. Um, and could we ask, because I asked the same question to you, Maria, how did you get into the industry and kind of what's brought you here?
Yeah, so I grew up in Hackney, and it was like pre-gentrification, I've got to say, because it wasn't such a popular part of London when I was growing up. But yeah, I was the first person in my family, I said essentially, 'cause I'm first generation born in this country, that went to university, and I studied media arts and marketing. But I mean, I think I did that at the time because I didn't want to go straight into work. I wasn't really sure where did I want to go into, but the media always was of interest to me. And I think perhaps because in schools, and I hope that it's changed now for young people going to school, but media wasn't really something that was spoken about as a career choice. And when I think back to like when I was at school, didn't really think that other than being a TV presenter or an actress or an actor, I don't think that there was really that much insight, not for me personally, of the different roles that kind of that did exist. And I think that was a personal goal of mine. I wanted to understand and to see what would I be best suited to. And so I went on to study media arts and marketing, which was and I also did an A-level in media studies, sorry. So that was my kind of introduction to into what exists within the media and what sort of roles are there. And it was literally as the internet was starting out. I'm giving away but my age a bit here, but yeah, I think when the internet was kind of starting out, because it wasn't around when I was at university, and just remember researching all of the different types of jobs that were available, and it was like a minefield. And I was like, well, why, this is like the best kept secret essentially. So upon finishing my studies, I then joined various media recruitment agencies that were specialized in media companies. And so basically I remember it was a small advertising agency, recruitment agency called Rose Inc. that probably don't exist now, but I remember Rose was lovely, and she took a real shine into me and was like, oh my gosh, it was like, I remember leaving, like we was like on a hugging, like my sort of basing, like very, very media actually. I come to soon learn. But essentially she said, I'm gonna get you a job at Channel 4. You'd fit right in. I mean, I'm not sure if you'd be allowed to say that now, but she was like, you'd fit right in. And I was like, yeah. I said, let's do this essentially. And she got me an interview. It wasn't initially for working in diversity and inclusion, but that's always been something that was really important to me. And it was in the sales department. So similar to Chloe, I started off in commercial, and yeah, have moved all around within the commercial departments I've worked on in sales, worked in campaign management, worked in sales development, and just as I've kind of been at Channel 4 more and more, I've just really found out more about the business. And what's kept me here, I would say, is the like the remit, the brand, and more importantly, the people that really do make it such a special place to work. So yeah, I think I've taken up. more time than allowed.
No, that's so interesting. Thank you. Like, I love hearing about people's different journeys into the industry. And what about you, Giles? How did you get to Channel 4?
I've had a bit of a squiggly career, as I think it's a technical term, squiggly. So after university, I went to work for a small research company in Chiswick. Ended up being the operations manager down there, and we actually had Channel 4 as a customer. And I was actually quite keen to go and work for Channel 4 at that time, and that was probably about 2002, so probably about 20 years ago. And that opportunity just kind of passed me by. And then I started a family, went to work for Transport for London, did quite a lot of working there for surface transport within Transport for London, was there for about 14 years. And then had an opportunity to go and work for BT, and actually ran their disability program in BT, and was there for 2 years. And then an opportunity came up with Channel 4 and said, would you like to come and work for Channel 4? There's a new role, there's a new workplace disability lead in Channel 4. And again, what Maria said, the brand really kind of encouraged me to come and try out. And I've been here for about 9 months now. So probably 20 years later than I probably first expected, but it's been really enjoyable for the last 9 months.
Ah, good. We've loved having you, Giles. So that's really nice to hear. Um, So can Chloe, you mentioned earlier the ERGs. So I wondered if, and I know you are all really heavily involved in the ERGs, but I wanted to direct this to you, Maria. Would you be able to kind of explain to our viewers what it is an ERG? And I know you chair the collective, so maybe you could talk a bit about what that means and what you do.
Yeah. So to start with, what is an ERG? So it stands for Employee Resource Group, and essentially what it is a group of employees. So it could be anybody within Channel 4 that come together, are united for a particular cause or purpose. Essentially building a community, and championing and shining the light on various issues or things, or just celebrations really to do with a particular community. And the collective, which is the group that I chair, is around race and ethnicity. So we have like a mission statement, which is essentially expanding, like advancing the employee life cycle of Black, Asian and minoritized ethnicity employees. That's a mouthful, isn't it? But yeah, so it's about allyship. It's about making noise. It's about lobbying senior leaders. It's about creating, like an environment. I spoke about it before, that are psychologically safe, where you can speak about things that are specific to, and this is with the collective, which is specific to that particular community, but it's open for everyone. So there's no, like, it creates that safe space, which again is something that I always talk about, but being able to talk about issues that are unique to Black community, Asian community, and any other ethnicity. But likewise, we have an employee resource group for LGBTQ plus community, for disabled community, for women, for men. We're all for sustainability. We've got so. I'm thinking I've probably left someone out, which I. But the point really is that we have various employee resource group where everyone is invited to kind of really drive change and also predominantly awareness of things that you can just kind of feel like it doesn't affect me, or it's not, you can get on with your life and not know about certain things that are happening and affecting communities. So it's about raising awareness and actually inviting everybody to care about what's going on in all different communities. So I think I'm a member of every every employee resource group. It's just that idea of people caring, having empathy for what's going on in different communities and making it a priority, even if it doesn't impact you. And I think that's testament of the caliber of people that work at Channel 4, that people really do care, and it's an extension of the external remit that we have. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Lovely. Yeah, it's like there's such amazing groups to get involved with if you join Channel 4. So definitely like to rave about them. And Giles, just to come to you, and then we'll go to our last question after that. But your role involves kind of helping people with workplace adjustments. Could you, I suppose, explain to people that are watching how does that actually work? And if anyone's watching and maybe thinking that could be something that's relevant to them, what's the process like?
Yes, thank you. So if you have a neurodiverse condition, impairment, or learning-to-term condition, you don't need a diagnosis. But if you feel that you kind of experiencing barriers, then we would do a holistic assessment to identify what those barriers are, and then put in adjustments to help reduce or remove those barriers. And it could be some software training, could be some hardware, could be some counseling, could be some support services, could be some speech to text translation that you need on key meetings. It could be a number of different adjustments you need, and we would agree those with, for example, your line manager. So be supporting you, maybe supporting you to have a confident conversation with your line manager, and also supporting the line manager to make sure that you were getting the right adjustments that you needed. So that's the kind of holistic process that we go through, and it covers both disability and also covers the health and safety. So I'm supported by the health and safety team to cover both physical and mental well-being as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Giles. That's great to know. And just one last question before we sign off. So thinking back to when you first started your career, what's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self? So I can start with you, Chloe.
One piece of advice I'd give to myself is that the only person judging you on your journey is yourself. Nobody else cares. You know, the worst thing that you're going to hear is no. If you get rejected, it wasn't meant to be. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. I mean, before Channel 4, I got rejected from fast food restaurants, corner shops, retail stores, you name it. So yeah, that would be my piece of advice, is that the only one judging you is yourself. Don't care what anybody else thinks, because they've got more important things to think about.
Advice.
Would you add anything, Maria?
Yeah, I can go next. So I would say, I mean, it's not just one piece of advice, it's a kind of three-part thing, but basically that just to always remember that you are enough, to don't be afraid to break rules, and therefore don't ask for permission. Be okay with just having to ask for forgiveness, because you know you are the driver of your destiny. That would be my advice.
And I would round it off by saying, stay curious. Just go and building what Maria says. Go and seek people or communities that you don't normally associate yourself with, and find out how they work, how they breathe, how they survive, and just be curious around other people. So there you go.